My name is Anthony Pinter. I'm a grad student at the Pennsylvania State University in the College of Information Science and Technology. And I'll be talking today about using web annotation as an educational tool in the classroom. This work was funded through our college, and I worked with a faculty member, Mark Friedenberg, who unfortunately has 2 young children and can't travel abroad with me. So it's just me today. So just a brief outline of what I'll be talking about. I'm going to go through the background behind why we think this project is important, our motivations with the project, a brief summary of what we had students do as part of our study, and then 2 bits of results, actual hypothesis use by the students, and then the results of a survey we gave them after the conclusion of the assignment. I'm going to discuss some of these results and kind of place them in the context of our motivation and the background, and then conclude with some of the limitations and some of the future work that we think can come off of this project. So in fall 2015, the U.S. Department of Education estimated that approximately 20 million students are going to be enrolled in college. This, coupled with rising class sizes, really limits the students' ability to interact with their faculty members. I'm sure many of you had your seminar classes where you had 100 people. It was very hard to be known on a first-name basis with your professor. And research has shown that this leads to lower grades. And so we think that web annotation tools such as Hypothesis and others may offer a solution to this problem of larger class sizes equal lower grades. So our motivation with this project was to test an implementation of Hypothesis on a case briefing assignment in an internet law class. So we had 2 primary goals that came off of this motivation. The first was to test Hypothesis as a way to increase opportunities for faculty-student interaction. And the second was to evaluate Hypothesis as a potential way to test comprehension within a textbook or a case briefing assignment. So a case brief assignment is a required assignment for an introductory law class within the College of IST. The course code's IST 432 if you're interested in some kind of course description. A case brief is a summary of a judicial opinion. So we gave them the full-length judicial opinion, in this case Sovereign Software versus Newegg, which was a Federal Circuit course in 2013. And this was made fully available to them online, or we told them they knew other ways to get it. We just figured it would be easier to give them the case brief with Hypothesis overlaid on top of it if they chose to use it. So Hypothesis was offered to the students, but we didn't require them to use it. We kind of left it up to them whether or not they wanted to use it. However, we did offer them extra credit just for signing up as a motivational tool. Students received a tutorial on joining Hypothesis, both in the class and then on the website itself, and in joining a specific private group, in this case IST 432 Spring 16. And then at the conclusion of the assignment, we gave them a survey using Qualtrics to assess student perceptions of the tool. This is an example of something that we put in a comprehension check. So the first annotation, this is the Hypothesis platform, is Mark posing a question about what is the Federal Circuit. And then to give them an example of what they could do, I answered it by answering that the Federal Circuit means it's heard in Washington, D.C. because all patent cases are heard in the Federal Circuit. Some results. So within Hypothesis itself, we didn't really see any annotations at all, either public or within the group. And the survey kind of backed this up. Students were pretty upfront in saying that they didn't make any annotations. They preferred to use the tool as a means to highlight and carry highlights over from machine to machine. And so students were saying, well, we would make our highlights at home and then go into school and not have to take our computer with us to school and still be able to see all of our highlighting so that we could work on this assignment wherever we were without worrying about having a specific piece of paper or a specific PDF with us. The survey was probably a little bit more interesting. So about 10% of the class ended up completing the survey, so for a sample size of 13. Of that 13, 66% had said that they completed these prior case briefing assignments online, and only online, so they didn't use paper and pencil at all. 46% used hypothesis for more than just the extra credit. So of that 13 that completed the assignment, half of them said that, yeah, we used hypothesis to actually do the assignment. And of that 6 people, 3/4 of them found it very useful. A good example of what a student said was it was useful to be able to keep track of important sections within the brief, highlighting the fact that they really like the highlighting feature to be able to really note, what do I need to write about to complete this assignment. 100% of the students that used the tool used the highlighting feature. Again, the usage and the platform itself kind of back that up. But all of them agreed that they would want to use the tool again. So they found the tool really useful, just for a different reason than maybe what we expected. So 2 examples of what students said about that was, again, it saved their work across devices, and then it served as a Word alternative, and so it allowed them to highlight and comment on material that we could share with our peers, instead of being in this kind of limited platform that is Word. And then all of the students agreed that they felt the tool made the assignment a little bit easier and a little less time-consuming. In the context of what the class was, this is an introductory law class for students that will not be lawyers and will never take another law class. And so the curriculum is much different from what they're used to within our college. It's a lot more writing, a lot more reading. So these assignments are traditionally really hard for students to do. And so just the fact that they said that they thought it made the assignment easier is significant, just for the class itself. 67% of the students felt that hypothesis made the assignment easier, like I previously said, but it didn't increase their comprehension necessarily, or their perceived comprehension. And then most students didn't use the tool or interact with faculty. Again, no annotations were made, but they did think that that could be a very useful thing if they ran into a problem. An example, although I didn't want to use it to comment, it did seem as though the professor was able to answer questions easily. So students found the tool useful, albeit for different reasons than what we maybe expected. So they liked the highlighting feature, they liked the cloud functionality, but they didn't really use annotation or the group feature. And overwhelming opinion was that students would use it again for other assignments, whether it be in this class, IST 432, or another class entirely. They felt it made it easier to complete the assignment, but in this case, maybe didn't necessarily increase comprehension. But they felt that faculty interaction would be possible using this tool, which was the kind of point of the study, was to see, well, do students think that this could be useful in this manner? Some limitations, again, really small sample size. The class itself was about 130 people, and we only had 13 responses to the survey. And we only used it for one assignment, which I can discuss further in a moment. And the other part of that was comprehension checks were optional. With a lot of educators here, and on this panel particularly, we all know that if you tell students they have to do something for a grade, they're going to do it. We kind of tried to stay away from that on this particular study, just because we wanted to see if students would actively use it without being prompted to. So some future work that we'd like to do is we'd really like to further evaluate comprehension checks and the group functionality of hypothesis. That could possibly be in saying, well, we made these annotations. If you want a grade on this assignment, you need to go through and answer all of our comprehension checks. As part of this project, we made a textbook using freely available content online for this class. Future work with this would be, we want to fully implement hypothesis throughout the book and put comprehension checks throughout to guide students in learning the material a little more fully. And then we kind of had the idea of making some kind of precursor assignment to a case brief where it was just highlighting, just so students would get used to the functionality of the tool and then maybe be more willing to annotate later on. So just kind of to summarize everything and going back to our motivations, students found that hypothesis was really useful, but not for the reasons that we really expected. They liked the highlighting, but they didn't annotate at all. Students thought that it could be useful for faculty. In this case, they didn't really interact with us in terms of, well, I have a question about this, can you answer it for me? But they thought that that's something that they could do, and they liked having the ability to do that if they felt it was necessary. And then individual use of hypothesis didn't really increase comprehension of the material, but group use wasn't tested. So because no one made annotations in our group, there's no real way to tell if students have been able to talk with their peers through the tool. Would that have increased comprehension? So that's something that obviously future work can address if we make comprehension checks mandatory or we ask them to actively annotate. I don't think we're taking questions now, but during the panel, obviously, any questions are welcome. Thank you so much. Appreciate the opportunity.